Hi everybody, Creative Katie here, and right now in front of me I have all my mixed media technique tags. We've done 15 of them, and if you've just found us, please go back and check out all the techniques on these tags. They're categorized into 6 different categories. We've got pattern, texture, collage, color, finishing, and other for something that doesn't ever fit into any single one. The technique tag videos are just that. They are techniques that are all different components of what it takes to put together a mixed media canvas or page. And thank you so much if you've been following along. If you're new, please go back and check out some of the technique tags. I hope you're playing along. I hope you're making your own tags, because the goal here is to not only learn the technique, but it's to make yourself a visual reminder of the various techniques, so that when you're sitting there and unsure and you go, oh yeah, I could use the plastic wrap technique, or oh, you know what I'm going to do and stamp some of my own tissue paper, or I'm going to start collecting tags again, and I'm going to use some tags for texture. Oh, I've got lots of paper towel. Various things. So today we are in the category of pattern and color. What I want to do is create some of our own colored papers that we can use as a ready-to-go background for ATCs, journal pages, iCads, what have you, or as collage items if you were paper piecing or doing something along those lines. It gives you another way of creating some colored papers that you can have in your stash and then use. So with these technique tags, one of the reasons, I want to help everybody out and have this catalog of all these techniques and what we can do. With each of them, I'm pushing the limits. Even if it is a technique that I use regularly, I try to push it and try it with a different medium or add a twist to it. So in some way, I'm also pushing the boundaries. With this one, I really am doing something new. I have seen people use their brayer to create backgrounds. And I've got to be honest, I've attempted that, but I've never really been happy with the end result. So I said, okay, this is a legitimate technique. We're going to make our own colored papers using the brayer, which is going to give it a unique look. It's going to look a little different than the jelly plate or jelly prints. Now, if we were doing this on the tag, this is too small of an area to really get the benefit of using a brayer, because when you use the brayer, you get some patterning that is unique to the use of a brayer. So what I suggest you use is, at a minimum, copy paper size paper, or bigger if you have it. Now I'm going to limit myself to copy paper. One, I don't think I have anything bigger other than my mixed media paper. And 2, for the purpose of videoing, I don't have the room for it. So what you're going to need for this technique is a brayer. And you can use different sizes. I have a soft brayer. You can try the hard one. I don't have that experience. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to use colored paper. We might get into using some other paper, but for now, that's it. Now, I am placing this on, this is a silicone baking mat that I bought at the dollar store. And I just found that maybe I get a better imprint of it when I use the brayer. If there's something soft, you could put pads of paper under it. You could put it straight on the desk. Again, every time you change something, it's going to affect it in some way, shape, or form. So I have that. Now underneath here, I have my craft mat, and I'm going to use that to put the paint on. You could use a jelly plate to get the paint on the brayer if you'd like. I'm just going to use this for the sake of the video. Now you can use any kind of acrylic paint. I'm going to use some of my Liquitex Basics, and I'm also going to use some of my various craft paints that I have here. Now again, different paints, different thicknesses, you're going to get somewhat of a different look. So let's see what the look is and the difference. I have a sample of some papers that I created because I have to give this a try. So you can get different papers like this, and you can see, I'm hoping you can see, some of the texture that is also there depending on the paint. I find if you use the Liquitex Basics, you get a little bit of that more texture. So you can experiment with different colors. And I even used, I'm not sure if you can pick up some of the metallics in there. And you get kind of this plaid kind of look. So I'm kind of excited about using these for some backgrounds later on. So we have our paper here. So I'm going to start with Liquitex Basics. And you can pick your colors as you see fit. Now if you're applying it wet into wet, if you're not going to wait for it to dry, which it just dries fairly quickly, you want to stick with colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. The analogous colors. You do not want to mix complementary colors while they're still wet. So this is kind of gloopy, so I'm just putting this on. Now you want to go vertically and horizontally, and you kind of want to stop and start maybe in different places. And you can turn the page. Now one of the mistakes that I often made is I did not try to keep it horizontal. And like most times, it does go through this page ugly phase. Now if this was completely dry, I could just apply paint on this. I've seen people use wax paper and just use different sheets of wax paper if they're wet so that they can keep going. But again, for the purpose of filming the video, it's a little, I don't quite have the space that I would need. Now the Liquitex Basics are heavy bodied. And you just want to continue to go in the different directions, and you're going to want to cover all the white spaces. Okay, so that pretty much dried there. I'm going to add phthalo green to this. Now you can add as many colors as you want. You could leave it with 2 colors. You could add 3. You can add as many as you want. Not sure what that was. If it's drying too quickly for you, add more paint. If there's, and adjust it. Now you can go back and add colors that you've already had, because sometimes they'll get pushed back. And dependent. So if you were going to do a collage picture where you wanted to have a sky in the background, you may do several different blues that you will then use to make up the background of that. With this, you're never quite sure what you are going to get. Now, I'm actually really loving this the way it is. So I'm going to leave it. Let's do another one. This time, I still want to use this Prussian blue, but I'm going to use some teal with it, and then I'm going to mix some copper. I haven't done it. It may work, it may not. One of the things I absolutely love doing is playing with color. Doing, using my jelly plate. And this, you can get as creative when you start mixing those colors. So now I'm going to use this teal green. And I've learned that you pretty much need a little bit more of the craft paints. Because they're so much lighter, they tend to dry. Now everybody is going to put paint on in a little bit different fashion, and you're going to come up with a pattern. Try not to always do the same thing. Experiment. With it. Now I want a little bit more of that. Okay. Liquitex Basics, I have copper, so I'm going to use it. Just because I like the thicker paint. And you can see how lovely that is. In there. Now I'm going to add a little bit more blue. So you can continue adding and layering. Different colors are going to get pushed back. And as the paper gets wet with paint, it will take paint differently. Ooh, yum. This is just all sorts of lusciousness. I think what I'm going to do is add a little bit more bronze. Now, if you need to clean up, because I want to get that bronze, I'm just going to clean the brayer just with water. If it's really wet, it comes off pretty quickly. There's no build-up there. So there we go, complete loveliness. So we have the two different ones where we've kind of bumped it up. Now this is dry. Say this it was too dark for what we wanted. Just gonna clean this off quickly. What you can do is knock back those colors with some white. Now when you're doing that, you can use the white acrylic paint, or you can use white gesso if you so wish. Now you're going, oh, but and sometimes you're going to think that, I wrecked it, I did whatever. That just means you're not done. But it pushed those colors back. Now, what you can do is add those colors, and you're just building layers. Now you could do this right in your book. What I find is difficult though is you have the coils or the bindings, and that makes it really difficult to get it even. So I prefer, and I finally figure this out for myself to do this as a separate page. On a separate page, and then glue this down. And if I wanted this for the background, I could glue this down or fit it to my page, ATC, iCAD, etc. Don't forget to turn it. I think that's something else that I learned. And there you have it. So now let's try it onto tissue paper. I like using deli paper or tissue paper to collage on. I find that we get some very interesting colors, and I just like the way it works. So we're going to use some Naples yellow here. Now I'm putting it on the side that is less shiny, and I don't know if that matters, but I like how this is going on. I really like how that paint, and I've never tried this before. I'm just going to put a little bit more. And then I'm going to put some cad red. And since that was dry, I didn't. Now, because it crinkles, you are going to get these texture, this extra texture. On the paper, and I love it. OMG, this is, oh, sorry. Look at that loveliness. It's a little bit of this Martha Stewart So if you had a bunch of these painted backgrounds, then you have the beginnings of many pages, ATCs, focal points that you can create with that. I absolutely love doing it on the tissue paper. So I'm going to speed up the rest of the video, and you're going to see me doing some more brayering, I guess, on the tissue paper. I absolutely love doing it on the tissue paper, and I definitely would be doing more of it. I also enjoyed being able to do it on a larger piece of paper, it was easier to get more variation, just because you have longer, just because it's bigger, I guess. But play with it and experiment and see what you think. So on this one, I am going to be using some yellow here. So yellow is the complementary color of the purple. And, you know, I looked at it and it's like, oh my goodness. So if you are adding a complementary color, you're going to get a lot of pop. But you need to wait till it's perfectly dry. If you don't, you're more likely to make mud, and you're going to end up with the colors that you would not necessarily like. As you can see, the tissue paper is fairly delicate. So I also like collaging and making embellishments out of the deli paper. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try doing the brayering on the deli paper. And I only have it, this paper is about the size of copy paper. And I'm using, you know, I'm going with a light color. With the tissue paper and the deli paper, because you're starting off with clear, it's kind of transparent or translucent. I found you need to add more layers to build up that color. And then when you glue it on to a white background, it just has a different feel or look to it. It just kind of glows a little bit, especially the tissue paper I found. So here I decided I'm going to use black and, you know, give that a try. You know, experiment with your colors. Use different color combinations. Worst case scenario, you cover it with white and you start over. It really is risk-free, and you can learn a lot about mixing colors. So I have my complete stash here, and I have pictures of these, kind of close-ups of these at the end. So I'm just going to cut some of them and use them as instant backgrounds. You have some depth, you have a pattern that the brayer creates, and you can use it just as it is, say, thinking that this is complete. And it's kind of nice when you're doing tags or ATCs, especially if you are on a create date or you're traveling. You can take all the brayered papers and your printed tissue papers that we created in Mixed Media Technique Tag number 1, and you have quick, easy backgrounds. You don't have to take all your paints. So here I'm gluing the tissue paper one down, and I'm trying to get a little bit more of the wrinkles just to build in more texture. And here you can see how it kind of, it's very bright because it is translucent. So if you want to use it as for paper piecing or collaging, I'm giving you an example of that. So I'm just kind of looking at the various brayered pieces that I have, and I decide to grab the tissue paper one, and I'm going to paper piece the dress. So I'm just stamping. I have it stamped on a piece of dictionary paper, and I'm stamping the dress out on the tissue paper. And I will cut out the dress and then glue it onto the dictionary paper. And because it's translucent, you will see some of the text coming through the colored tissue paper. So once I glue this down, I will just use my watercolor crayons, my Inktense pencils, or my Neocolor 2s to color the rest of the girl. And I'm using gel medium because I find that for more finishing type projects, that's what I reach for. And here I decided to use my Neocolor 2s. And I color her hair brown, and then her skin gets kind of a peachy tone by mixing colors. And I realize it's very one tone. And I do darken her hair just to have a little bit of variation. And I'm using orange and white and a little bit of the brown and just creating my own skin tone. So this is my way of doing fussy cutting. I prefer doing it with the X-Acto knife. I just find I can be more precise, and it's quicker and easier. Now you can edge this with ink if you choose to. I didn't on this one. And I'm going to just glue that whole thing down now with gel medium underneath and on top. And I'm being a little bit gentle, although you can't really tell, because I don't want to activate the Neocolor 2 and smudge it, because it is watercolor. It is, you know, it will reactivate with the gel medium. If you've watched my mixed media technique tag video where I talk about how to match focal points to the background, you'll realize that this is a C match scheme where it is complementary. The dress on the girl is a complementary color to the background. And I'll put a link to the ABCs of matching focal points to backgrounds. And if you haven't watched it, I think you might find that really interesting. So here I'm just finishing off this tag, edging around and then shading around the girl. And it just shows that you know those little finishing touches, you kind of do them on every project, and they really make a big difference. There's a mixed media tag for that as well. I will put links to any of the materials and equipment that you see me using in this video. Please check out my Amazon store and see what's there. I do have it organized by categories, and I have Creative Katie approved things. Now I'm cutting out a do-it-yourself sticker that I created, Just Sayings, and that is the last mixed media technique tag video, number 15, I believe. You want to check that out. So, as I was saying, you can use the Brayered papers for backgrounds, quick, easy backgrounds. You can also use it to create embellishments. And here I am doing a 8-sided flower, and I just folded it, and I'm drawing on the pattern and cutting it out. And it's really that simple. You fold it 3 times, starting with a square. Now I was thinking I was going to use this flower on as an embellishment for a focal point for this card, And then I decide, oh, what if I cut out hearts? And so then I cut out some hearts. And you'll see what I just decide to do with the hearts. Initially, I was going to have just kind of a cascade of hearts, different shaped heart coming down on the tag. And again, I've done another complementary color scheme matching the focal point and the background. So I'm just cutting hearts now that I have the idea to make a butterfly embellishment with the hearts. So I went from not finishing these tags to completely finishing these tags. You gotta go when inspiration strikes. These pieces, not only are they complementary, the focal point, the butterfly, and the background, but the bronze that I used on the blue also ties in really, works really well with the background. And again, I'm using my stickers that I created, my Just Sayings. And if you go to my blog, and the link is in the description box, if you go to my blog, there is a write-up blog post about how I created those stickers, and there's a link to all the phrases that I use that you can download and then print off your own Just Sayings. And as always, I'm fussy placing and, you know, so I've done some shading around the butterfly, and I've put gold around the edges, and I'm just using the stylus to add some gold dots on the edges. And you don't even need to go all the way around like you see here. Just adding that little bit of extra something something just is enough to finish off a card or tag. So I'm going back to the brayered sheets. Now you can use them as they are once you finish brayering them, or you could do some stamping or stenciling on there with whatever colors you choose and further decorate the page or the background that you can use. So here I'm using a lot of black and different stamps. I have to be honest, I really didn't like how it looked at the end. The black just seemed a little bit stark, but then I go in with some white paint and some stencils, and that just kind of lightened it up. So there's always a way to save the page, so to speak. And this, adding that stenciling or splatters or whatever, you can do that to any page. Remember the brayer, it's called Brayered Beginnings. It's the beginning of whatever you want, wherever you want to take that page, that colored paper. Sometimes it's helpful if I was going on a trip, I would do this ahead of time and just kind of have it neutral. Sometimes once you have a page in mind, you may want to add certain colors or certain kind of stencils or stamps. So it may be more page specific. So here I have the template that I can move around and cut out an area that looks good. So here's just another way that you can further embellish a brayered background. And I'm just using the white Dilutions paints through a stencil with the felt applicator with this I believe it's a Prima stencil. I love that bubbles one, and I love, love, love how this looks. That's just all sorts of that's just my happy place right there on a page. I would love to use this on a page. So again, I can use the template and find an orientation and composition that I like. So here are the 3 tags that I created. I stenciled a dragonfly on that one and added my just sayings. And I did write summaries of the variations and things to watch out for on the back. And I've actually typed those in. You can stop the video and read what I've written, or you can wait till the end. And I've kind of typed in some of the more pertinent information when I show pictures of the Brayered backgrounds. The middle one, I've also added some texture paste right there. So you can use texture paste again. It's Brayered beginnings. It's the beginning of wherever you want to take it. It can be completely used just as is, or you can add to it to your heart's content and use it as a starting point. So you can use it for paper piecing and collaging. You can use it for the backgrounds. You can use it to create embellishments. Thank you so much for joining me on this mixed media journey. I'm hoping that you enjoy the mixed media technique tags. I'm learning a lot, and I hope that you are as well. And here are the close-ups of the tags. Just a reminder again that all the supplies that I've used in the creation of these tags will be in the description box with links to them into my Amazon store, just to make it easier for you. Remember, you can add texture paste, drippets, splashes onto the Brayered backgrounds. I love the texture that you get and the pattern that you get from brayering. You can't get this any other way. Use any kind of acrylic paint so it's permanent and doesn't reactivate. That way you don't have to worry after the fact to remember what you did. I loved working on the bigger tissue paper sheets, so I would actually go and buy some 11 by 17 papers to do brayering. Repeat color several times to build layers of interest. Absolutely, you got to try it on tissue paper or deli paper. It's really wonderful. Don't forget to try black sometimes. Little pop of black, just like that little black dress. If the pattern gets too bright or busy, remember you can knock it back by using light colors or white. You can always add more color after. Using complementary colors, make sure you dry it first so you don't end up with mud. Don't forget to add iridescent or metallic paints in amongst those layers. Don't limit yourself to certain colors. Be adventurous. Who knows what you're going to create? Don't forget, you can stamp or stencil over the Brayered paper. Remember, this is just the beginning. Use Brayered paper for quick, interesting backgrounds, for collaging, for paper piecing, or creating embellishments. Have fun experiencing with Brayered backgrounds. Check out the other technique tag videos.